Wholesome motivation. This is the most superior of the three motivations. It can be further divided into the motivation of an inferior, an average, and a superior practitioner. The motivation of an inferior practitioner is the lowest of the three. Those who cultivate virtue with this kind of motivation do not think about liberation from samsara. They are only concerned with not being reborn into the hell, the ghost, or the animal realm, but the realm of celestial beings or human, and as human, better be born as someone with good health, long life, high position, and wealth. Their actions, albeit virtuous, will not bring them any closer to enlightenment. Hence, this type of motivation is relegated to the bottom level. Some people may wonder why, as mentioned above, a motivation to pursue health and long life is considered unwholesome. But here, it turns up in the section of wholesome motivation. The previous one is unwholesome in the sense that it only aims to take care of things for this life. Whatever of the next life is not its concern. The inferior practitioners, on the other hand, do not seek enlightenment or rewards for this life. Their goal is to obtain temporal blessings for the next life, which makes it a wholesome motivation. However, for those seeking enlightenment, this should not be the motivation for virtuous actions. Nowadays, many lay practitioners make it a habit to chant Buddha's name, burn incense, do prostrations, and so forth every day. But please ask yourselves honestly why you do all these. Is it to gain health and longevity for this or next life, and to make sure not going to the hell realm? If so, nothing that you do will ever free you from samsara, not if you practice for 100, 1,000, or even 10,000 years. Good karma resulted from this kind of motivation cannot be made the cause of liberation. Neither can it yield the fruit of liberation when matured. To practice with such intentions will not result in much virtuous karma, other than some temporal benefits like health and long life, or avoiding rebirth in the hell realm. The law of cause and effect works on infallible principles. For example, seeds of rice will yield only rice, not barley. Similarly, if a practice is not what leads to enlightenment, how can it yield the fruit of such? Many people think that if they regularly read scriptures, such as the Diamond Sutra, the 35 Buddha's repentance ritual, the practices and vows of the Bodhisattva, Samantabhadra, the Heart Sutra, etc., they are no doubt Buddhist practitioners. Actually, that may not necessarily be the case. While recitation of sutras is definitely a good thing to do, and the Buddha also praised its merit, motivation still matters greatly. If the motivation is not right, all will be wrong and vice versa. That is, one can never do wrong with the right kind of motivation. Some of you here started your Buddhist practice earlier, some just a couple of years ago. No matter how long it has been, we should all look back to see what motivated us to perform virtuous actions. If our motivation is that of the inferior practitioners, albeit some good karma may ensue, it will not lead to enlightenment. If we come to realize this might be a problem, something can still be done to transform our good karma into means for attaining enlightenment. The most effective way is to generate bodhicitta. Why? From the perspective of all things being incessantly arising and ceasing every instance. It is true that what we did before no longer exists, but the continuum of awareness of the karmic seeds has already been planted in our alaya consciousness. Once we have generated renunciation and bodhicitta, the continuum in the alaya consciousness will be transformed immediately. Virtuous karma of the past may thus become the cause of enlightenment. If we do not improve the inferior motivation, virtuous karma will forever remain just mundane practice and never become the cause of liberation. What a pity that must be. Although it is not advisable to cultivate virtue with the kind of motivation mentioned above, it does not mean Buddhist practice cannot bring forth worldly benefit, nor does it mean the Dharma should never be applied to worldly endeavors. Let us use taking refuge in the three jewels as an example. No matter what the motivation is, taking refuge prevents obstacles caused by both human and non-human beings, purifies a great deal of negative karma, and brings health and longevity. These are the benefits inherent in taking refuge. Also, when we run into difficulty or experience pain, the normal thing to do is to pray to our guru and the three jewels, as all Buddhists should. It is not as if we oppose completely doing good for the sake of health or holding pujas for longevity and wealth. However, to direct every practice simply to gain worldly benefit is wrong. Liberation from samsara alone should be the ultimate goal for us taking up any practice. The motivation of an average practitioner is that of a Sravaka and Pratyeka Buddha, which is not to practice for worldly blessings like health or longevity. These people are scared of and loathe all worldly fulfillments and clinging to the five aggregates, from physical body to consciousness, and long to rid themselves of the shackles of the five aggregates as soon as possible. Therefore, they do not perform good deeds or practice the Dharma for worldly benefit. Yet liberation of others does not concern them either. Well, do arhats not have compassion? Yes, they do, and they take pity on the sentient beings as well. But because their compassion is not deep enough, they do not have the courage to help all sentient beings to freedom from samsara, wanting only to resolve their own cyclic existence. They are unwilling to generate bodhicitta and practice for others' sake. That is why such motivation is only of middling quality. Practice with this kind of motivation yields no karmic fruit other than liberating oneself. Some people may think of themselves as practitioners of Mahayana, Pure Land, Zen, or Vajrayana, but never Theravada practitioners, and they feel complacent, what with Mahayana being the superior vehicle and Vajrayana simply outstanding, whereas Theravada not being particularly profound. However, please carefully examine each one's own motivation. Perhaps we will be ashamed to find that we are not even up to the standards of Theravada practitioners. All branches of Buddhism fall under Mahayana and Theravada. There is no third vehicle. To be a Theravada practitioner, the first requisite is having unshakable renunciation, complete distaste for worldly fulfillments, and wholehearted pursuit of liberation from samsara. Do we have such resolution? If not, we would not qualify as Theravada practitioners. Mahayana practitioners, on the other hand, must have undaunted bodhicitta and be willing to serve the needs of others unselfishly and unconditionally. Can we do that? If not, we would not be deemed Mahayana practitioners either. If we are neither Mahayana nor Theravada practitioners, strictly speaking, we are not Buddhist practitioners at all. What are we after all? At best, we are believers of Buddhism or of Shakyamuni Buddha, who may intermittently chant some mantras and do some good deeds here and there. Really, just be a little better than non-believers. Though we may have had many teachings and empowerments, met more than a few respectable teachers and practitioners, we still cannot get any closer to even the edge of liberation. Worse, it must have been horrifying to discover that we possibly may not even be Buddhist practitioners when going through the aforementioned self-examination. Many people have heard the teaching of the three supreme methods before, but that is not enough. To actually practice it is the most crucial. In my opinion, there is no need to hear more teachings if a teaching cannot be put into practice. One should learn to apply faithfully one teaching at a time. Like walking, one only needs to see clearly some 10 meters or so of the road ahead in order to move steadily forward. Conversely, knowing the condition of the road 100 or even 1,000 miles ahead, but staying put at the starting point would be completely useless. True, it's not that easy to be a real Buddhist, but do not let that discourage you either. Are renunciation and bodhicitta only fit for gods and celestial beings to develop? No, it's totally possible, even now in the so-called period of decline of the Dharma, for ordinary people like us to generate renunciation and bodhicitta. If they were only the privileges of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas of the first bhumi, and impossible to be achieved by ordinary people, we would not be able to do anything, even knowing that we are not yet qualified as Buddhist practitioners. But it's not like that at all. Renunciation and bodhicitta are something that ordinary people are absolutely capable of generating. We need not be too discouraged or too arrogant. Just honestly evaluate ourselves and spur ourselves on all the time to make constant improvement and not be a practitioner in name only. The fact that we are probably not yet practitioners by any standards ought to keep us under pressure and ultimately push us to make progress. Nothing but serious actions can lead us to success. People are likely to go astray if these points are overlooked. I think it is really unnecessary for some to hear the profound teachings like the Great Perfection just yet. Does it mean there's no benefit in listening to those teachings? No, that's not what it means. Hearing the teaching certainly can plant some good seeds in the mind stream, while also having the inherent merit associated with listening to the Dharma, but no other benefit to speak of. Therefore, I believe, without the necessary foundation, it is not very meaningful to rush into receiving those teachings. The most pressing task right now is to adjust the motivation. Of course, only we ourselves know if we have aroused renunciation or bodhicitta. Unless someone has the ability to read other people's minds, it is impossible for anyone else to know, even through fortune-telling or divination. Thus, for the sake of monitoring our development, we must act as our own most unforgiving supervisor. The motivation of a superior practitioner is that of a bodhisattva, which is the most difficult in the category of wholesome motivation. My personal view is that barely a few people are able to take the path of the superior practitioner. Since beginningless time, all sentient beings have known to cherish themselves above others. Everything that one does is to take care of one's own interest, seldom others, and never serves others' needs unconditionally. Therefore, it is usually not very difficult for someone to achieve worldly success, but quite a different matter when it comes to arouse genuine bodhicitta. When basic qualities such as bodhicitta is absent, all practices will fail in reaching their objectives. Therefore, we must strive to succeed in generating bodhicitta, no matter how difficult it is. The challenge is with our own self, with that selfish mind. It is a constant battle we must face with endurance. If we work hard at it, we will triumph in the end. Before, lacking the essential wisdom, people tended to love themselves almost unscrupulously. But under closer examination, selfishness is really without reason, groundless, and moreover a big obstacle in our quest for ultimate happiness. This was never mentioned in anything that we learned from the secular world. Though some people might have said something similar, they lacked profundity. Only the Buddha told us the truth. Through his teachings, we are able to reflect on our previous actions and thus come to the conclusion that we were wrong being selfish. Henceforth, bodhicitta can be aroused. Among all the wholesome motivations, bodhicitta is the most precious and most significant.